In the depths of forgotten ages, even the dead refused to rest. What should have been sealed within ancient coffins had begun to stir, and a relic meant to guard the dead found its way into the hands of the living. When golden light pulsed like a beating heart, Han Li realized that some treasures were never meant to be unearthed, and some dangers did not end with death. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. The old man, Jin Yuan, let out a soft chuckle and said leisurely, "Relax, fellow Taoist. I went through no small amount of danger to obtain it. It is certainly no ordinary item." Han Li merely nodded, offering no further comment as he led Jin Yuan toward a building situated along the side. Upon entering, they arrived at an enormous hall more than 100 meters wide. It was completely empty, save for a middle-aged woman at the foundation establishment stage, seated cross-legged upon a prayer mat. The moment she noticed Han Li and Jin Yuan stepping inside, she opened her eyes and rose to her feet. "Since the two fellow Taoists have arrived," she said calmly, "you must either wish to browse the hall's collection of magic techniques, or perhaps you require a hidden room to privately exchange cultivation experiences." "A hidden room," Han Li replied flatly. He had not the slightest interest in perusing the records here after all. Techniques openly shown to outsiders were bound to be mediocre at best. "That will be one spirit stone," the woman said with a gentle smile. "Once you leave the hall, your access to the room will be revoked." As she spoke, she reached to her waist and produced several miniature rooms, each only an inch in size. Resting neatly in her palm, Han Li was momentarily stunned at the sight. He casually took out a spirit stone, exchanged it for one of the miniature rooms, and began examining it with open curiosity. Noticing his expression, the woman asked perceptively, "Is this the first time fellow Taoist has seen a hidden fortune room?" "That's right," Han Li admitted. "Is this some sort of magic tool?" He weighed it in his hand and found it as light as a feather. "The hidden fortune room can be considered both a magic tool and not quite one," the woman explained patiently. "Its usage is quite simple. You merely need to supply it with sufficient spiritual qi. Of course, low-grade hidden fortune rooms can only expand to a limited size and possess few additional functions, making it difficult to classify them as true magic tools. However, higher-grade rooms can contain spell formations and restrictions, and may even rival magic treasures. The one I gave you is a common variety, but it is more than sufficient to prevent others from eavesdropping on your conversation." Han Li felt a wave of astonishment wash over him. Though he had been told that hidden rooms were available for rent here, he never imagined they would take the form of such peculiar items. Nothing of this sort existed in the heavenly south. "Many thanks for the explanation," fellow Taoist Han Li said sincerely, then proceeded toward the side chamber she indicated. Jin Yuan followed closely behind. After a brief pause, he couldn't help but remark with a hint of amusement, "It truly surprises me that this is your first time encountering a hidden fortune room. Still, considering your age and cultivation, it makes sense. These items are usually sold only to loose cultivators or high-level cultivators who travel frequently. You seem like a carefully nurtured sect disciple. There'd be little need for something like this. Besides, they're quite expensive. Spirit stones are better spent on magic tools or pills." "Oh," Han Li asked casually, "then what is the price of an ordinary hidden fortune room?" Seeing Han Li's interest, Jin Yuan elaborated, "A low-grade room costs a little over 100 spirit stones. As for high-grade ones with formations and restrictions, their price far exceeds magic tools of the same rank. That said, hidden fortune rooms come in many forms: pagodas, pavilions, courtyards. It's even said that the greatest among them are small-scale cave residences." "A small-scale cave residence?" Han Li exclaimed softly, genuine shock flashing through his eyes. Jin Yuan chuckled and waved his hand. "Brother Han, don't leap to conclusions. Even the most basic cave residence-level room costs tens of thousands of spirit stones. They're not something cultivators like us can afford to dream of." Han Li nodded, his expression swiftly returning to calm. By then they had arrived at the side chamber. 6 stone rooms shimmered with faint white light scattered throughout the area. They resembled enlarged versions of the miniature stone room Han Li held in his hand. His heart stirred. He casually extended his spiritual sense toward one of the rooms. As expected, a restriction blocked his perception. Though the restriction was simple and easily broken, doing so would instantly alert the room's owner to any attempt at intrusion. It was an elegant and effective means of preventing espionage. With that thought, Han Li tossed the miniature room into the air. Azure light flickered across his palm as he poured spiritual power into it. The object grew hot, trembling violently before a flash of white light erupted with a dull bang. A 10-meter-wide stone room materialized before them. He glanced at it briefly, then said politely, "Brother Jin, please go ahead." "Then I'll enter first," Jin Yuan replied with a chuckle, stroking his chin. "Though I've seen hidden fortune rooms before, I've rarely had the chance to enter one." Han Li smiled faintly and followed him inside, closing the stone door behind them. The room was modest in size but tastefully arranged. A stone table stood at its center, surrounded by stone chairs with even a stone couch placed nearby. Qinwen had already taken a seat. Han Li pressed his palm against the wall, activating the restrictions, then sat across from him. With a serious expression, Jin Yuan spoke first. "You mentioned earlier that there were a few things you wished clarified. What would you like to know?" "It's nothing major," Han Li replied calmly. "I merely plan to stay in Guaning Prefecture for a short time. However, I haven't been able to learn much about the local noble clans. From your tone, it seemed you were a native, so I hoped you could enlighten me." Qin Yen relaxed visibly and smiled. "So that's how it is. That's no trouble at all. Not to boast, but I'm quite familiar with not only Guaning Prefecture, but nearly the entire Liao province. What would fellow Taoist like to know?" With a satisfied expression, Han Li asked, "Since Guaning Prefecture is ruled by 3 noble clans, why don't you introduce them and tell me about any major events from the past few years?" Jinyan pondered briefly before speaking. "Where should I even begin? Guaning Prefecture is largely under the influence of Confucian sects, and many noble clans originate from them. However, the 4 great clans of this prefecture, save for the Kong clan, each rose from different backgrounds." Han Li curled his lips slightly. 4 great clans. I thought Guaning Prefecture only had 3. Jin Yuan laughed. "That only became true recently. 10 years ago, there were still 4. But the Feng clan committed some unknown offense against the other 3. In a single night, they were overthrown, their direct lineage completely exterminated. I heard that at the time, the Feng clan had been discussing some matter of great importance and had gathered all their direct disciples." Jin Yuan continued recounting the tale in detail. Han Li listened quietly, comparing the account with what Feng Yue had told him. Several discrepancies stood out, leaving him faintly unsettled. Afterward, Jin Yuan proceeded to introduce the remaining clans of Guaning Prefecture, his knowledge extending effortlessly to other prefectures within the province. It was clear he had traveled extensively. Han Li was thoroughly satisfied. He now possessed a solid understanding of the cultivation world of Liao province, far more detailed than anything Cao Mengrong had shared. Jin Yuan spoke without pause, occasionally inserting his own opinions, until nearly half an hour had passed. Finally, Han Li smiled and said, "Thank you for the trouble of explaining all this. Now shall we turn to the matter of your strange treasure? May I have the honor of examining it?" "The treasure," Jin Yuan replied eagerly, clearly pleased. "Of course. I was hoping fellow Taoist would help me inspect it." Under Han Li's attentive gaze, Jin Yuan retrieved a jade box from his storage pouch and placed it gently upon the table. Han Li swept his eyes over it, then extended his spiritual sense. In the next instant, his heart skipped a beat. A peculiar force emanated from within the box, repelling his perception and instantly igniting his curiosity. Jinyan carefully opened the lid, revealing a fist-sized sphere of dazzling golden light, its surface hazy and indistinct. He pushed the box toward Han Li and said eagerly, "Fellow Taoist, please take a close look. Can you recognize it?" Han Li raised an eyebrow and leaned closer. The object resembled a bubble, its center transparent, its surface shimmering with golden radiance. Yet it possessed not the slightest trace of spiritual qi, appearing utterly mundane. After observing it for a long while, Han Li extended a finger, wrapping it in a thin layer of azure light, and gently prodded the sphere. It yielded softly flexible as if it truly were a bubble. Shock flashed across his face. After a brief pause, he attempted once more to envelop it with his spiritual sense, only to have it deflected as the golden surface flickered faintly. Unconsciously, he increased the intensity of his perception, forcing threads of spiritual sense toward it. Suddenly, an astonishing scene unfolded. Golden light pulsed rapidly across the sphere's surface as it began to expand and contract rhythmically like the steady beating of a powerful heart. Han Li's brows knit tightly as he pondered for a long while. At last he sent a silent voice transmission to Monarch Soul Divergence. "Senior, have you ever seen something like this before? Do you truly believe there is anything under heaven that I have not experienced or do not know?" Monarch Soul Divergence retorted bluntly. After a brief pause, he continued, "I don't know what it is either. However, since it can repel even your spiritual sense, it can already be considered a rare treasure. Ask him carefully where he obtained it. Only then should you decide whether or not to take it." Han Li chuckled inwardly upon hearing this response. His eyes flickered faintly as he withdrew his spiritual sense from the golden bubble and gently placed the jade box back onto the table. "Well," Jin Yuan asked anxiously, "did fellow Taoist recognize it?" "I'm afraid my experience is still far too shallow," Han Li replied with a regretful sigh. "I wasn't able to identify it." "So even fellow Taoist couldn't recognize it," Jin Yuan said dejectedly. "From the way it reacted, I thought you had already discovered how to use it." Han Li smiled faintly and said in a casual tone, "That reaction only occurred after I wrapped a considerable amount of spiritual sense around it. Although I don't know what it is, it certainly qualifies as a rare treasure." "Oh, so that's how it is." Jin Yuan still looked somewhat doubtful. His gaze lingered on the golden bubble before he released his own spiritual sense toward it. Han Li calmly observed his actions. After a short while, the bubble began to emit faint flashes of golden light pulsing weakly. Jin Yuan soon let out a long sigh and withdrew his spiritual sense, his face showing clear exhaustion. "It seems I've embarrassed myself," he said with genuine admiration. "Fellow Taoist's spiritual sense is far stronger than mine." He had initially assumed that Han Li's cultivation was comparable to his own. Yet even after exerting himself to the utmost, he could barely stir the bubble, while Han Li's seemingly casual attempt had produced such a pronounced reaction. This further cemented his belief that Han Li was a heavily nurtured sect disciple with boundless prospects. Han Li merely smiled and did not refute his conclusion. Brother Jin Han Li said indifferently, "May I ask where you obtained this item? Given its peculiar nature, does it originate from some special place? Of course, if it's inconvenient to say, you don't need to answer." Jin Yuan hesitated for a moment, then gave a bitter smile. "It's no secret where it came from. I only fear that you wouldn't believe me even if I told you. The matter itself is rather unbelievable. If you don't say it, how would I know whether to believe it or not?" Han Li replied with a faint grin. "If I know its origin, I might be reminded of something similar. That could help me identify it." Jin Yuan sighed deeply. "There's nothing worth hiding. It's just that in order to obtain this item, many of my good friends lost their lives. I didn't wish to reopen those memories so casually." Han Li was taken aback. Seeing the pensive look on Jin Yuan's face, he knew the old man was organizing his thoughts. As fellow Taoist may have guessed, Jin Yuan finally began, "I am a loose cultivator, one who cultivates an earth attribute cultivation art. My other talents are nothing special, but I was born with an earth spirit constitution and possess exceptional aptitude in earth movement techniques. If not for my poor spiritual roots, many great sects would have fought over me." A trace of regret flashed across his face before he continued, "When my cultivation reached a certain level, I grew fond of searching for ancient cultivator ruins and strange relics scattered throughout the wilderness. hoping to stumble upon some fortuitous encounter. Naturally, such things are not easy to find. While I did gain something over the years, the effort consumed an enormous amount of time. Until 3 years ago. He paused abruptly, his expression darkening. 3 years ago, a close friend of mine sent me an invitation. He claimed to have discovered the tomb of an ancient cultivator and hoped to use my earth movement techniques to explore it. If we found any treasures, I would naturally receive a share. I was overjoyed and immediately agreed. Along with several other close companions, we ventured there together. His voice grew heavier. That was when I realized that the tomb was anything but ordinary. And after we entered, we finally discovered the truth. His voice trembled slightly. The tomb did not belong to a cultivator at all, but to an illustrious mortal monarch from ancient times. He was known as the Glorious Blaze Monarch, a legendary figure in his era. When we realized this, we were utterly disappointed. After all, no matter how grand a mortal king might be, his possessions would be of little value to cultivators like us. A bitter smile tugged at his lips. Yet who could have imagined that within the burial chamber, we would uncover numerous magic tools and precious cultivator materials buried alongside the monarch? We were ecstatic, but that joy was short-lived. His complexion turned pale. The decayed husks within the chamber suddenly stirred. They rose to their feet, transforming into undead soldiers. No matter what techniques or magic tools we used, they were completely ineffective. One by one, my companions were torn apart, unable to defend themselves. His breathing grew unsteady. Then, from the monarch's coffin, a strange sound echoed like something awakening, as if the glorious Blaze monarch himself was about to rise from death. When things turned dire, I barely managed to escape using my earth movement techniques. Had I been any slower, I would have perished there as well. The others were not so fortunate. By the time he finished speaking, Jin Yuan's face was deathly pale, the terror of that scene clearly still haunting him. Moved by the tale, Han Li pointed toward the jade box. Then that item is. It was one of the offerings placed atop the monarch's coffin. Jin Yuan replied plainly. I grabbed it as I fled. At the time, I believed that something so peculiar had to be a great treasure. But no matter which market city I brought it to, no one could identify it. Though they all agreed it was extraordinary, none were willing to offer a suitable price. And so it has remained with me ever since. A gloomy expression settled over his face. Han Li frowned slightly. Since it was buried with an ancient monarch, it's not strange that no one recognizes it. Countless relics from ancient times have already been lost to the cultivation world. However, a mortal monarch possessing cultivator items and transforming into a walking corpse raises many questions. Didn't you return with others to explore the tomb again? Of course I did, Jin Yuan said bitterly. I even gathered a group of high-level cultivators. But when we arrived, the tomb had completely vanished, replaced by nothing but barren wilderness. What was even more unbelievable was that the secret mark I had left at the tomb's entrance was still clearly there. His expression darkened further. Han Li fell silent. If all of this were true, Jin Yuan was the sole survivor, and the tomb itself had vanished without a trace. One could only imagine the despair that followed. After a moment of contemplation, Han Li asked calmly, Fellow Taoist, could you tell me where the tomb was located? Jin Yuan clenched his teeth. Deep within the snow-mound mountain range, a sharp glint flashed through Han Li's eyes. The snow-mound mountain range. If I recall correctly, you mentioned earlier that cultivators frequently go missing there. Could this be related? After a brief hesitation, Jin Yuan nodded. It's possible. If fellow Taoist is interested, I can give you the location. Perhaps you might uncover something. He then took out a jade slip, inscribed information onto it, and handed it to Han Li. After a moment of silence, Han Li accepted the jade slip. Very well. If I find the time, I'll take a look. Jin Yuan immediately broke into a broad smile. It seems we've become fast friends. It's been a long time since I've spoken of my bitter experiences to anyone. How about this, since you seem so interested? Why don't I sell it to you? 100 spirit stones. What do you say? 100 spirit stones. Han Li replied with surprise. That's quite cheap. I can't let Brother Jin suffer a loss. How about 200 spirit stones instead? With an embarrassed smile, he reached for his storage pouch and handed over 2 mid-grade spirit stones. Jin Yen's eyes lit up at the sight. After expressing his thanks, he accepted the stones and passed the jade box containing the golden bubble to Han Li. Han Li received it and promptly placed it into his storage pouch, completing the transaction. Jin Yen looked visibly relieved, as though afraid Han Li might change his mind. But at that moment, a spirit beast pouch at Han Li's waist suddenly stirred, releasing a strange, excited cry. This is Jin Yuan stared at the pouch in shock. Han Li glanced at it calmly and said, "Just a few low-grade spirit beasts that I raised." They must have mistaken the box for some kind of treat and got excited. Jin Yuan was somewhat doubtful upon hearing Han Li's explanation, but he did not pursue the matter further. Instead, he exchanged a few more polite words before taking his leave. After Jin Yuan exited the room, the smile on Han Li's face gradually faded, replaced by a dark and contemplative expression. Shortly afterward, he retrieved the jade box once more and silently studied it. Monarch Soul Divergence spoke calmly. "What? Do you truly intend to investigate that ancient tomb?" "Of course not," Han Li sneered softly. "Whether his words were true or false, I'm not foolish enough to walk straight into danger like some green novice. Still, I am curious about that monarch's tomb. Once I restore my cultivation, I may take a look. But it's obvious he didn't tell me all this out of goodwill. Quick, friends, does he take me for a child? An old fox like him wouldn't casually reveal such a secret, especially not to a stranger he just met. Judging from how eager he was, it's clearly a trap." "That's right," Monarch Soul Divergence agreed. "But if it were those youngsters who just left their sects, they would certainly be deceived with ease. He thought he'd gained your trust, and would likely have sold you out later. It reminds me of when He suddenly sighed, his voice trailing off. "Oh," Han Li chuckled. Was Senior deceived by such a trick in the past? Monarch Soul Divergence snorted several times in embarrassment. "I was young once as well. There's nothing strange about that." "That's fine," Han Li replied lightly. "This junior won't pry into Senior's past shames. However, it seems the Weeping Soul Beast has taken an interest in this item. That alone makes it rather peculiar." Han Li's expression blanked as he slapped the spirit beast pouch at his waist. A streak of black light shot out and landed atop the stone table, revealing a miniature monkey barely a foot tall. Its body covered in jet-black fur. The moment it appeared, the monkey began sniffing the air, its gaze soon locking onto the golden bubble with a conflicted, hesitant expression. Perplexed, Han Li linked his spiritual sense with the Weeping Soul Beast. From its response, the creature felt both fear and excitement toward the golden bubble, a contradictory emotion that made Han Li's heart stir. "What's going on?" Before he could react, thick black yin qi suddenly surged from the Weeping Soul Beast's body as it lunged forward, plunging headfirst into the golden bubble. In the next instant, the bubble flared with brilliant golden light and a wisp of grey flame emerged, wrapping tightly around the beast's body. The Weeping Soul Beast wore an expression of intense pain, yet it did not move. Instead, pitch-black qi continuously poured from its body, struggling fiercely against the grey flame. Han Li's brows furrowed deeply, although he didn't fully understand what was happening. It was clear that the Weeping Soul Beast would not be emerging anytime soon. It appeared to be drawing upon the grey flame to cultivate something. What shocked him the most was that the golden bubble, previously devoid of spiritual qi, was now erupting with astonishing fluctuations, all triggered by the appearance of that grey flame. Monarch Soul Divergence suddenly yelped, Wait, I've seen something like this before. Senior has recalled something," Han Li asked in surprise. "Let me think," Monarch Soul Divergence replied solemnly. "This was a very long time ago." Han Li fell silent and shifted his gaze back to the Weeping Soul Beast, within the bubble his thoughts racing. After a long while, Monarch Soul Divergence finally spoke again, his voice filled with astonishment. "I remember now. When I was traveling the world, I once encountered something similar on a 10,000-year-old corpse monarch. That corpse monarch had once been a senior monk of a Buddhist sect. After transforming into a corpse monarch, he refined his crystal relic into an incomparably powerful protective treasure. When released, it rendered him nearly invulnerable for a short time. I suffered greatly under its might. He paused, then added, "However, that was long ago. The protective barrier I encountered was silver. Furthermore, such a treasure should be hidden within the corpse monarch's body. How did a mere foundation establishment cultivator like Jin Yuan obtain it? You suffered at its mercy." Han Li's expression grew grave. "Then this must be an extremely precious treasure. But leaving aside its origin, do you think it poses any danger to the weeping soul beast?" Monarch Soul Divergent snorted. "You still haven't realized it. Your spirit beast is absorbing the corpse flames contained within the relic. Not only are you an anomaly, your spirit beasts are as well. This one specializes in restraining ghosts and spirits. In all my years, I've never heard of a beast like this. Absorbing corpse flames." Han Li observed closely and saw that the weeping soul beast's yin qi was indeed slowly devouring the grey flames. His heart relaxed slightly. He then smiled wryly. To be honest, this beast has long deviated from its original cultivation path. It has evolved several times already. It's difficult to say whether it can still be considered a weeping soul beast. "Oh," Monarch Soul Divergence mused, "so it's a variant spirit beast. That explains the demon ghost pattern on its back. As for those pale grey flames, they are undoubtedly pure corpse flames over 10,000 years old. Ordinary cultivators or spirit beasts would perish upon contact, yet this one dares to consume them. Truly extraordinary." He paused, then added, "However, the treasure itself doesn't seem fully refined, nor has it recognized a master. Otherwise, the corpse monarch who created it would have sensed its whereabouts, no matter the distance. That alone is extremely strange." After a moment of silence, Han Li smiled faintly. "So it hasn't acknowledged a master yet. In that case, once the weeping soul beast finishes absorbing the corpse flames, I'll have gained a treasure for free. Tisk, to think I'd acquire a precious Buddhist treasure before ever obtaining a Buddhist technique. I truly wish to witness the full might of its protective barrier." Monarch Soul Divergence sighed. "I should also mention this is no ordinary crystal relic. It is a Vajra Relic. The vast majority of crystal relics are white, with only a handful in other colors. Only golden relics earn the title of Vajra Relic, and they are exceedingly rare." He continued, "Buddhist cultivators who refine Vajra relics are typically appointed as Vajra protectors of their sects, a position comparable to an enforcement elder in other sects." Han Li's eyes flickered. "Then you're saying this relic should be even more formidable than the one you encountered before?" After some hesitation, Monarch Soul Divergence replied uncertainly, "In theory, yes. Vajra relics are renowned even among other sects. But I've never personally tested one, so it's hard to say." Han Li was about to ask something else when the golden bubble suddenly trembled violently. A grain-sized speck of green light abruptly shot out. Startled, Han Li immediately focused his spiritual sense on it. The green light collided with something unseen and began ricocheting wildly. It had struck the concealed spiritual sense. Han Li had wrapped around it. At that moment, the weeping soul beast snorted sharply, releasing a mist of light from its nostrils. The mist dragged the green speck back into the bubble and straight into the beast's stomach. Han Li frowned deeply, staring at the golden bubble as a vague realization began to form. Far away, over 1,000 kilometers distant, within an enormous burial chamber, 3 massive stone coffins lay arranged side by side. The chamber spanned more than 300 meters, its walls engraved with ancient murals depicting forgotten legends. Each corner was illuminated by towering copper jars, their interiors blazing with raging green flames. At the exact moment the green speck of light was devoured, a furious scream erupted from one of the coffins. Bang! A deafening explosion followed as the heavy stone lid shot 10 meters into the air before crashing violently onto the floor. Black chi billowed forth as a towering silhouette rose from within the coffin. "My royal son, what has happened?" A calm, deep voice resonated from the central coffin. "Why are you so enraged?" The tall silhouette wrapped in black chi roared several times before barely managing to speak. My thread of spiritual sense is gone. Your thread of spiritual sense is gone." A smooth female voice sounded from the smaller coffin nearby. "Perhaps someone encountered the incarnation you sent out and destroyed it. It's nothing serious. As long as you continue cultivating the underworld river corpse arts your royal father bestowed upon you, it can be restored soon enough. There's no need to fly into a rage. Are you still unable to restrain your temperament?" The silhouette pounded its chest furiously. But my Vajra barrier. Vajra barrier." The middle-aged man's voice turned cold. "You mean the barrier I refined from the monk I killed during my last awakening? Didn't I already help you refine most of it before giving it to you? Why hasn't it acknowledged you as its master?" The black silhouette faltered momentarily at a loss for words. "Great king, please don't blame the prince." A groan emerged from the smaller coffin as its lid slid open. A slender figure slowly sat upright, though her features were obscured by the dim light. "I've already discussed this matter with him. What is the situation?" The middle-aged voice asked, its tone softening. "Beloved concubine, explain it to me. That Vajra barrier is an exceedingly precious treasure. I only entrusted it to my son because his cultivation was still shallow, otherwise I would have used it myself." That's all for today's content. See you in the next part. Support me by becoming a member. It will give me more motivation. Thank you so much.